arranging this for your team, because I cannot understate the importance of you starting to make this transition, because I can't believe I'm back here after 2 months already, and the deadline is the end of December, right, when the old Webforms goes away, and then you have nothing but the new one. Now, I know that sounds ominous, but it is the hard truth, because that's what it is. And if you recall when I was here last time, and I still maintain that, I would encourage you to be using the new Webforms, or at least make a good solid effort to go in and familiarize yourself with it by the end of September, right? And so we're creeping up on September, so you've got 6 weeks. And I'll kind of give you some strategies and things like that as to what I think. So I know this is the same slide, I apologize, but and this is an added bonus. I'll throw this out here too. Because I'm actually not from Korea, I'm here on behalf of Korea, and I work for the Oakville board. I actually know a lot about Ortis and the Ontario Collective business that's all happening, all that kind of stuff. So at the end, if you want to ask me some questions, let me know, and then we can talk about those things. It's just sort of value add, I guess. All right, so yes, I'm the Manager of Technology and Member Services, which is MLS and membership at Oakville. Now, the big question is, why are we doing this? Why? We just got Webforms 5 last year, now we're doing it again. And here's the thing, right? So Webforms, the old version was created by a small team of programmers out of Fraser Valley in BC, who were very forward-thinking at the time and were looking at new web technology. And they're like, you know, this is crazy, we're doing all this paperwork, there's all this talk about going paperless, what can we do? And they just showed initiative, and they built something within their own board. And turns out it had application all across Canada. And that's one of the things we have to remember, is that Webforms is a national product. It's not just something that your board provides to you, or it's not a board, it's a Canadian thing. And so it's a small team, so whenever there's a bug or something in Webforms, then it's this small team that has to try and fix it. And in our experience, fixes tend to take 1 to 2 weeks, which is a long time to wait for something that's broken to be fixed. The other thing is we've got this time, because they're out of BC, there's a time zone difference. So, you know, we're here working, and you've been without Webforms until noon, and they're just like having their first cup of coffee, and then walking into the office and realizing there's a problem they got to fix. It is highly likely you would not even see it fixed before the end of the day, right? And I know I get the calls. Everybody always calls the board, even though the board's not a board product, it's Korea. We get the call and it's like, but I have to do an offer, right? What do I do? So this is one of the reasons. So the new Webforms, it's actually based on a product called Transaction Desk by Lone Wolf. Out of curiosity, how many people here are dual members of TREP? Wow, a whole chunk of you. So Transaction Desk is also offered through TREP, right? So a lot of this should be familiar because it's generally the same product. It's simply rebranded as Webforms 2019. So you probably already have a leg up. And the good thing is the Lone Wolf technical team, they're a much larger team. They're fairly robust. I have seen things, I've come away from one of these training sessions and somebody's pointed out something that doesn't work. And I've reported it to Korea, and the next day it's being fixed, which I find amazing. And I will mention this too, because I know that a lot of people have kind of gone in and maybe not had the best experience right off the hop, because it is different. And everybody's expecting all the same stuff that was in the old Webforms to be happening in the new Webforms. Some of those things are there and some can be accomplished and some of them cannot, simply because of the different technology. Right? You can't always just go in like you can't have a sedan and take it into the dealership and say, hey, you know what? My last car was a hatchback and I want that again, so can you add a hatch to it? Right? It's a different product. But they will do their very best to make the experience good for you. So we've got all of those things going for us. And I do recognize this, and I've come to learn this after teaching a lot of people who come to Matrix for the first time, right? I know that was the case for a lot of you folks, right? Because you were on what? Were you on Fusion? Yep. And then it was Stratus, and then it was Matrix, right? I get it. I've been in front of a lot of people. People love change when you pick it yourself, right? You know, if I go out and buy a Tesla, and I don't get up in the morning and go, oh my goodness, I have to go drive that. Right? It doesn't even have an engine. Every car I've ever had before has had an engine, and now it's got these electric motors. There are no dials. they're all gone. It's been replaced by a big tablet. So it's a radically different car. It does get done what it needs to. It gets me where I need to go, and probably in a cooler fashion. But I don't mind it because I picked it, and I recognize that everybody here, you're just being given this. But we've all experienced Webforms being down, and there have been problems with it, and all that kind of stuff over the last couple of years. This is Korea's decision. They're like, we've had enough. We have to give a reliable product to our members and across Canada. And so they've made this decision. They've made this partnership with Lone Wolf, and this is what we have. And so I'm going to go through and sort of, I think the big part is the navigation, and if you can, I would encourage you while I'm yammering at you here for the next little while, is to look for the similarities, not the differences. If you think about it, Webforms, it's got 3 components, really, maybe 4. You create a transaction, you add forms to it, you fill out the forms, and then you share them with somebody to print, or you print them or you get them to sign it electronically. The big component in there is the forms. All the forms are the same, right? They're the real forms. None of that has changed. So you don't have to learn that section. It's just how you create the kit and how you get stuff out of it. That's really all you need to learn to make this a successful product for you. And so let's go through some of these things. Does anyone have any questions for me before I get going? Yeah.
Why did they choose AuthentiSign instead of DocuSign to marry?
So, because DocuSign, I don't know if you've ever looked at this. I don't trade in real estate because I'm board staff, right? So the need for me to do electronic signature is pretty low. But I was like, you know what, I have to teach this. I'm going to go and get electronic signing software. Well, AuthentiSign is $69, and DocuSign is hundreds of dollars. So it's not so much, you know, and everybody has a preference, but if you're an organization that is servicing hundreds of thousands of realtors across the country and you need to strike a deal, and you're going to provide it in some way, Toronto provides it, because Toronto has 50,000 members, right? They have the volume to be able to strike these massive deals and give that to you as part of their service, right? As a service offering to you. Now, I can tell you that I've heard recent discussions for anybody who's not a TRED member, that I would not be surprised with the Ontario Collective Fortis merger coming up, that AuthentiSign may be part of that conversation, right? Or at least soon. But AuthentiSign is $69 for the year, like I said, it's supposed to be. That's why, right? So I do appreciate that they do have different capabilities, but that primarily is it. The other thing too is AuthentiSign is made by the same company as Transaction Desk. So there's excellent integration between the two of them. It's almost seamless, right? So that's one reason. All right, so what's happening? How many, okay, just for show of hands, how many people have actually tried the new Webforms? Once. How many people are like using it? Then you're the perfect audience.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
I know. You
Oh,
do.
yeah.
So this is a great comment. I usually say this, what I'm going to tell you until a little bit later, but a great comment. Usually, like when you have to use it, you got to use it right now. So think about this, right? One of my strategies to you is to do this. If you are so busy that you don't have 30 minutes in a day to practice creating a transaction kit, I don't have any sympathy for you because you are wildly successful, right? You are a busy agent. However, what I do suggest to you is this, is that maybe upon completion of a transaction, the deal's done, you've done this, I don't know whether you've given like a new, gift to your new buyer, your new homeowner, or whatever it is, right? And you're done, you go home, you go, oh, right, perfect. Now I just gotta wait for the closing date so I can get my money. At that point, I would go into Webforms 2019 and recreate the transaction you just completed. Right? You just finished it, it's fresh in your memory, you know all the documents that you need, you do it again. You don't have to send it anywhere. You can send it to yourself if you want to sign it. But you don't have to send it anywhere. And then what I would do is pick a couple of transactions that maybe represent a regular, uncomplicated one, maybe ones of different property types, maybe a condominium as opposed to, a single family or a residential, right? Was there a tricky one? create a transaction, but do it after you're done and you don't have to do it. And then in your mind say, on this date, I'm going to do my next transaction in the new Webforms. And I'm going to give myself lots of space to do that. Practice doing the offer. Right? The stuff that you know you're going to have to do in short time, you practice those ahead of time. I make it sound like it's a sport of some sort. But, all right, so we're dialing here. So what's happened here? So your templates from the Webforms legacy, which is Webforms 5, have been transferred to Webforms 2019. What hasn't been transferred in those are your clauses. So the template, so there'll be a template with the right name, that whatever it is you called it before, it's been transferred over, but the clauses aren't in them. And trust me, Kriya would have done this for you had the technology not been so radically different. However, they did transfer your clauses for you. So all you have to do is go into the Webforms 2019 and reinsert your clauses into your templates. It's a good opportunity to actually do a little bit of house cleaning, right? And then look at your clauses and say, do I need all of these clauses? I obviously created them for something. And then put them in. Maybe they're just system clauses that you're adding, or even office clauses. So the office clauses and personal clauses have been transferred also. So those are there. And Jack, if you find that the office clauses aren't there, then you can reach out to Kriya and just say, you know, I seem to be missing some stuff, and they will happily help you. Right. And then finally, this is the kicker. This is the elephant in the room. None of your transaction kits from your history of transaction kits have been transferred. They're all sitting in the old Webforms. They're not in the new Webforms, and this is for two reasons. One, as I mentioned before, the technology is a little bit different, but also, what Kriya is looking at this is an opportunity to clean up a little bit. I don't know how many geeky people are in here, but Kriya has never deleted any transaction kit from anywhere across the country. They have, and you got to think about it, these are just documents, so they don't take up a lot, but there are a lot of them. There are 8 terabytes of transaction kits in the old system. And that starts to create risk for the organization. If there was a disaster and there was data loss, they would have to restore all that. It takes a long time to restore 8 terabytes of data all in the right spot so that you can access those. Because you got to remember, when you log in, like you're connected to your documents, you're connected to your documents. It's not like dead easy. But it also takes longer to back up all that. So they're starting to mitigate the risk by saying, you know what, you look at your transaction kits that you have and you decide which ones you want to bring over. And then you do that, sadly, one at a time. So you go into Webforms Legacy, which is the one you're using still now, and you will notice at the bottom left-hand corner, there is this link that says send kit to Webforms 2019. So you open up a transaction kit, you click that link, you get a little wheel for a second, and it'll tell you that it's been sent to the new Webforms. I recommend that you look at your transaction kits. I don't know how many you have. I don't know how long everybody's been in this, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if there are people with hundreds of some of these things. But can you look at them and say, these are unique kits that I would like to use as a reference, and I would transfer those. Are there common ones that you would like to use as a reference, and I would transfer those? You could download them all as PDFs and save them somewhere else, right? But you do have to do them one at a time. This is one of the reasons why we're coming out early, is to give you lots of time to do that before the end of the year, so that you're not waiting till the last minute, because sometimes you can only move as fast as the computer can process. When these go to Webforms 2019, they show up not as a kit that you can use. They show up as a PDF. They show up with your other kits, but you can't copy that and then base another transaction off it. It is just there for your reference.
Oh.
This is important. So if there's anything you're going to start to do, start doing this. Start migrating your kits. Are there any questions about that? I know it's not at all.
Just a technical question.
Sure.
How to get the menu on the left? I've got my transaction kit set up, but I've got a menu on the left. How do you get that?
Okay, so this screen here, this is the old Webforms,
So,
right? This is the old Webforms. So if you go into you're still using the old Webforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go into the old Webforms and you pick a particular kit, you will see that menu on the left-hand side,
Okay.
right? And that's where you're going to put that. Is there any questions about the why we're doing this and the things that you should do before? I do think it is all very important. I want to tell you this, it's like we're rolling out Webforms 2019 across the country. This is why we're here, because Cree only has one Webforms trainer, believe it or not. And this poor woman, who is fantastic, I love this woman, Lynn, but she's like, I've got this task where I have to train every board and many, many offices on this across the country. They're doing it a province at a time. We were second, Saskatchewan was first. We're second because we've got 70,000 realtors in the province that we have to train up. And there's a lot to do, and this gives you lots of time to get familiar with the new software. This is why we're doing this now. And everybody should really take advantage of the opportunity to do these migrations. All right, let's have a look at it. All right. I can't see the screen. Is that big enough? Do you want to make it a little bit bigger like that? Is that better? Yeah? Okay. All right. All right. So this is called the member dashboard. Now, if you go into Webforms and yours doesn't look like mine, that's okay, because you can customize this screen to, so that you can work however it is you want. We see these boxes everywhere. I got a couple down the left-hand side. These are action ones in blue, right? They start a process of some sort. I can create a transaction, I can upload a document, and then I can access help. The ones that are gray here, they display information. Now, customizing this is done by up here in the right-hand corner, you can see there's this lock. And this unlocks or locks the dashboard. So when I click the lock, this ribbon will appear. And these are things that will allow me to customize my home screen. Also, you'll notice these boxes, which incidentally are called widgets, just like the boxes on your home screen in Matrix, those are called widgets too. We can do things here. We can move them, right? If I put my cursor over it, I can click and drag and I can move them around. I can resize them, so I can just do this, for example. And I can add new things to it. So maybe I want to add one of these widgets for forms. So I'll just drag it down, pop it in there, and I can resize it. And you can move it around however you want. Same with these ones on the left-hand side. You'll notice they're in blue up here, these actions. So maybe I want to create contact, so I can drag it down here. Now this may go somewhere else because I want to put my head on the screen.
Can you clarify something you just said?
Yep.
I'm very methodical. You said the ones in blue are action ones.
Yes.
So there's ones with no color, ones with green, and ones with blue.
Yeah. So, okay. So these ribbons, so I don't know if everybody heard that. What are the difference between these two? These ones these boxes up at the top that are in blue, right? They start an action, like create a transaction, upload a document. It's an action. These ones display information, right? So they're lists.
Oh.
That's the difference. So when you see the green ones over here, these are these ones, and then the blue ones are action. Now, you don't have to put them all here on the left-hand side. You can take them all out if you want. This is just how I've done my home screen. But that's sort of, if you were to try to think in your head what's the difference between a blue and a green one, whenever you add one of these blue ones, like email docs, you're going to start the process of emailing something. Whereas this will just show you information. That's the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. Some people may like the old version, and so you could technically take out all the widgets, all these boxes, and then just leave transactions. For example, I can remove that, take out my forms, take out my tasks, and then just do this. And then it kind of looks like the old one. And if that's comfortable for you, you can do that. So I've made some changes. Move that over here. It's back here, create transaction. New sign. All right. So I'm not going to mess too much with it. I'll just add my forms. play with that. When we're done, and you're finished kind of creating your little masterpiece here, or whatever it is it's going to look like.
Where did you get your Advent blue box from?
This one? It was a pen up here. If yours isn't there, have you linked a pen sign? I'm going to show you how to do that.
No, because I have DocuSign.
You
so
got DocuSign.
I'm gonna have to change, I guess.
You don't have to change. You can continue to use Doc. If you have a DocuSign account, you can continue to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do show us about how to get.
I will do that, yeah. Okay, so once you've made all your changes, you go back to the lock in the top right-hand corner here, and you click it again. It closes the ribbon, and now everything is going to stay here. You can't accidentally move them or delete them or anything like that. So pretty straight. Any questions about moving around? This is an easy thing to play around with before you have to get into actually making transactions. I can just go play around with the interface like that. Down the left-hand side, we have what's called the agent tools. Now you can hover over each one of these, and it'll come up with a little pop-up and tell you what it is, a tooltip. Or you can click these three lines here. This is relatively new in like the last 5 years on phones and stuff like that. It's a menu. It's affectionately referred to as the hamburger menu. It's supposed to be like 2 buns and something in the middle. Believe it, it's true. So you click on the hamburger menu, and it'll pop out and show you what all of these items are. Good for quick reference. You can't leave it open. As soon as you click something, it closes again to give you more room on the screen. So we're on the dashboard now. If we click on transactions, it does just that. It shows us a list of our transactions. On the right-hand side, we've got these controls. Wherever you see this little circle, this allows you to select it. We are used to seeing this in Matrix as the little square box on the left-hand side, and you put a checkbox in it, right? In this Webforms, it's this circle, and when you click it, it puts a check in that. So if you want to perform an action on something, that's what you're going to do.
You have to have a transaction up in order to get those. You gotta know to get these controls in place.
That's right. These show up whenever you're going to be able to do something with a number of items. Like I might want to move this one. And then there's these 3 vertical dots. We refer to these as the stoplight. Now, it's a menu. And this menu will have different options depending on where you are. So, for example, if I'm looking at a list of tasks, then it might say edit or delete. Right? In this case, I'm selecting a transaction, and it's going to say, give me the details, show me contacts, what forms, documents. So I have a very long menu that goes with this one. I would encourage you to just poke around. Like, little kids are great for this. They will click on everything just to see what's this, what's this, what's this. And when you're in the system, don't hesitate to click on that, because you may say, okay, well, that's where I go to do that. That's perfect. All right. The pen icon here, I've got linked a Venasign. So this particular transaction I have already in process. So I've already started the Venasign process. That's why it shows up in here. If you've had a number of transactions or documents that you have started the process of electronic signing, they would be shown here. And then from here, for example, I could click on this, and it would take me into a Venasign to work on this document and complete it. Put the little notes where people have to initial, where they have to sign, all that kind of stuff. This icon will show us a list of all the forms in the system, right? So they are in alphabetical order by board. You guys are lucky. You're buried, right? If you're looking for forms, I will tell you this, like FinTrack forms and what have you, you would expect them to be in alphabetical order, but not. They're way down at the bottom. So when you're looking for your forms, when you're looking for FinTrack forms, canopy forms, they're way at the bottom, out of alphabetical order.
But if you click on Barry, what do you get?
So you're going to get your data sheets.
So if there's nothing there, click on
Well, I could start a new form. Like they are there, those are them. This is a commercial form, and then this is the residential.
it. How does, you have to open up, you have to create a transaction to get, and then the forms will appear. You just can't click on them right now.
You could click on one, like this just accesses all your forms. So I could be in, for example, I clicked on Barry. And let's say I click on this form, and it says, do you want to start a new transaction? with this form already in. Now, that's not how I'm going to show you how to start a transaction, but you could do that.
But if you click on that viewing there, nothing comes up. The one above it. The down there. Click on
No, yeah, so what it's, see how this one, it looks like it's open,
it. Yeah.
right? So it's showing that I'm viewing this one. So I was in the big list. I clicked on vary in district. And now it's saying I'm viewing that folder.
Oh,
And
I
in
see.
that folder is these two options.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. This is why I'm doing this. It's just kind of get rid of all this, administrative here. Now, documents, you can upload documents to Webforms, which you can include in your transaction kit. So this is an option for you. So if you have things that are not forms provided by ARIA, right, and they're not data sheets or whatever, then you could upload. Maybe it's a survey that you like to give to your clients or something like that, and you want to include or email out at some point or another. That's where they go in there. Your tasks, so you can create a series of tasks. So you may want to have a task that has a reminder date of 2 weeks from now. Maybe you want to say, okay, I know I've got this transaction coming, I need to order a photographer to go in and do that, and you can give it a date. What's nice is that when you create a transaction, if you do populate dates like what the closing date is, right, that kind of thing, you can have a task that sends a reminder based on one of those dates. So you can say 2 weeks before the closing date, send me a reminder to do something. So this is not mandatory. I don't know if you've ever used tasks before in Webforms. It's just a tool that is part of the new Webforms that is available for you.
Brian, do you want to go back to that previous one?
The
That one
documents.
there?
Yeah.
Can you just review that very quickly? Now, was that for emailing out documents to your?
You can upload a document from your computer to the system and use it just as a holder. And then you can include those, so when you create a transaction, if you wanted to include a document in your
Like
transaction.
Schedule B or something like
Exactly. Yeah.
So the disclosure isn't already in there. That's one of them that we have to put in this section, right?
Yeah, that would be a good avenue to do it, would be to upload it to here.
Are there any others that you know off the top of your head that, like if we're doing an offer and I'm trying to look for the disclosure document, I wouldn't know where it is.
Right.
So is there any others that you know that are normally with offers that we would have to put in this section that wouldn't already be in the, where the transaction?
Yeah, if it's not something already provided by ARIA, right, as one of the forms, the many forms that you can choose from. Everything that was there before, you can still pick now, right? But if it's something from outside, like a disclosure document, like is the disclosure document, it's not an ARIA document, right?
I think it is. I think it's
Then you should be able to find it in the form.
What you're talking about is surveys.
Oh, okay, surveys, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that. It's fast.
that. So Brad, if you're emailing yourself, like Schedule or something, where's that? Over there in the box?
So like, can you clarify that?
Well, if you're sending yourself a form including transactions, then how does that process? How does that process?
Okay, so let me get there because I'll show adding documents in a little bit. So we talked about our tasks. Now this is hilarious, faxing. If you love faxing, I don't know who faxes anything anymore. You can create a fax cover sheet for this. I feel, you gotta have to remember that Transaction Desk is a little specific company in the US. And I think the process is a little bit different in different places. So I'm not going to anticipate a heavy amount of use here for the faxing. These are your contacts, so you can create your contacts here. So for example, if you just wanted to add a contact and do this, you can click add actually, and you can add contacts with Google also. So I don't know whether or not you use Gmail as your personal email or your work email, but you can import your contacts from your Gmail account. I probably would be a little bit cautious doing that unless you're somebody who seriously curates your contact list. It is an interesting option. There are some companies that use Gmail for their corporate. I think it's actually one that does. They've switched to Gmail services. The gears here. This is your setup menu, and I'm going to come back to this in a second. But this is where you set all the preferences for the system. How do you want forms to look? Your personal information, where you do your email signature. Like I said, I'm going to come back and show you that. And then the little shopping cart here, this is where you come in and you link your software, your signing software. So whether you use Event-Assign or DocuSign, you can sign. Now, you probably, how many people use one of these products now? Lots of you. So you've done this in the old Webforms. You have to do it again in the new one. And the reason for that is this, is that Kriya does not save your ID and password. You'll recall when you connect the two, you link them. So you would go to say Event-Assign or DocuSign, you say link, a box comes up and says enter your DocuSign ID and password. You enter that in, and then it's linked, and then you can say send a DocuSign. That is a DocuSign box that opens. It's not Webforms that opens. Kriya does not want to store your ID and password for some other service. This is why they're not trying to make it hard on you that you have to do it again. It's for your security that they're not doing it, so you just have to enter that in again. I will point out for Event-Assign, for you TREB members, I know you get Event-Assign with your TREB membership. TREB has decided that you are unable to use your TREB Event-Assign ID and password with the Kriya Webforms. So if you want to use Event-Assign from Kriya's Webforms, you'll have to have another Event-Assign account. Okay. Great.
So like, if it's free from Trev, you can't use it because.
Correct.
Just correct. Don't kill the messenger.
I hope people appreciate what it's like being the most hated person in the room, right?
I should have brought donuts.
Only if you're going to throw it at me. But no, it is, I know that there's a lot of, that's a correct decision, and I know you walked in a little bit afterwards, but I'm not ruling out, I'm not committing to it, because it's not my decision, that there may be some opportunity for Event-Assign to be included with the Mortis Ontario Collective.
Yeah, there's kind of that.
Yes, it would be excellent. So, that's that. This little question mark down here, this gives you the support page. If you need support for Webforms 2019. I know at our board, people call us, we do our very best to help you, but there are some times that we just can't because we don't run the product, right? But we will do everything we can to help you out. But if you need to contact Kriya, then up here they're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. This is their email address. If you email support@kriya.ca, they'll open a ticket for you, and you get a notification that they've opened a ticket and all that. You can call them. You can fill out this form and submit it. What's nice about this is if you do this, you can attach a screenshot. So if you see an error message or something and you know how to take a screenshot, you can include it with your ticket. And then down here at the bottom, there are some webinars that you can sign up for. So the webinars are pretty much what I'm talking about right now. So if you're kind of half paying attention to me and then 2 months from now, you're like, I really should have paid attention when Grant was there a couple months ago, you can sign up for one of these training webinars. I think they're running 2 a week right now at different times of the day. There's some good help guides here, some training videos, and there are a couple of recorded webinars. I will point out the recorded webinars. They have, you'll see Saskatoon or Saskatchewan all over them because that was the webinar they recorded. The system works exactly the same for the people in Saskatchewan as it does for you, but you just may see different branding. So don't hesitate to do that, they're quite good. And then this little doodad down at the bottom, this logs you out of the system. All right, so I'm going to come back to these gears. This is our setup. So there are things, this is like the perfect cure for insomnia. If you want to come through this menu, I'm not going to go through all of these. The preferences, your user information, this is where you can pick your salutation, I want Mr. Brown. Your generation, if you really want to get fancy, are you a junior, senior, a second, third, or fourth generation? That's fun. Oh, it's like you're picking. So that's the user information. Office information is provided through your board itself. Your email signature, this is where you're going to want to go. If you ever email anything out of the system, you email documents, there's a little signature at the bottom. I feel like we're constantly adding the same email signature for every different system that we use. This is one place. And then for branding, for example, you can add an image, like a banner image that goes on your fax cover sheet. You can add your own personal photo, and then you can put your company logo on there also, which shows up in various places. Yes?
I've heard that if you have an email with a photo in it and branding in it, that it's going to be stopped or something like that by the powers that be when you're sending emails out through the internet. Now they don't want photos anymore. Is that true?
I have.
Is that just a rumor?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in that right now. You know what I do want to point out? Like, I know this seems pretty rudimentary when you come into these preferences and say, you know, go through your program settings, transaction settings, how do you want your transactions sorted on the screen. This is an important one here, form settings. What font do you want to use on your forms? Does everybody, whenever you create a new form, the default clearly here is Courier bold. Is that what you want to see every time you go in? Or do you change it immediately to Helvetica or something? If you do change it every single time you go in, then maybe what you should do is come into these settings and then change the defaults so that you don't have to change it every time. More importantly, in this section here, I encourage you to come in here for this reason alone. One of the hardest things that you're going to have to deal with is this new interface because it looks really different from the last one. So if you say to yourself, I would challenge yourself once a day, even over the next, you can say the next 2 weeks. Come into Webforms 2019. Click on the little gears here on the left-hand side. Come into your program setup. Go into one of these sections. Have a look at it. Set what you need to set. Because every time you go in and you look at it, it becomes a little bit more fluid. And then it's not so, you're not so anxious when you come in here because you've just gone in and done just a little bit and then you've gotten out. And then pretty soon when you come in, it's going to seem really familiar and you've navigated through places because look at one of these places where you really want to come in, we're going to look at it near the end of the class, is your transaction templates. That's your time saver right there. That's, if there's anything important in the system, it's that one item. So work your way down this list. Set whether you're a Mr. or Ms. or a Mrs. Set whether you're, you know, Mr. Howell III or whatever it is. And each one of these clauses is another one. Come in, create some clauses, get out. And then you'll find that things will actually come together pretty quickly. All right. So I'm going to come back to my dashboard. We're going to create a transaction. There's a number of ways you can create a transaction. In most systems, there's more than one way to accomplish a task. I've got this button here, create transaction, because it's easy and simple to do. Down in the bottom, you see this little button down here in the bottom? It's got a hamburger menu also. When I click on this, it pops out, and there's a little house here, create transaction. So I can create a transaction from there also. The reason that's there is because maybe you've decided that you don't want this box here and you've taken it off the screen. Well, then how would you do it from the dashboard? This is how you would do it down here. So I'm just going to use this here. So I'm going to give it a name. Am I using a template? I've got a number of templates set up. I'm not going to use one right now. What type is this? This is just so you can sort stuff. This doesn't govern what happens in your transaction. Let's say it's a residential sale. And then here's an option here, import data. Now this is optional. So you could pick, for example, your board from here. I can come down, I'm going to choose board as MLS. If I do that, I have to provide an MLS number. All right, so if you're trying to create a transaction and it's not based on anything that's in the system, right? Maybe it's a new listing for you, it's not in the system. Don't pick anything here, leave it as select source. Otherwise, you'll find you can't move forward. And I find this catches people a little bit, right? So you leave it as select source. If you pick it, if you pick the board, I'm going to say where's MLS, and you put an MLS number, then when you have your documents, it'll start being populated, like it'll have the address, it'll have, all the property, the details, that kind of stuff, who the sellers are, all that kind of stuff. Depends on what kind of transaction you're doing. But like I said, people get stuck here and get frustrated because they've selected their board and then they can't move forward because they're creating a new transaction for a new listing. So leave it blank. Decide whether you're a listing salesperson or cooperating salesperson. And then finally here, there's use wizard. Everybody here has always used, you've all used a wizard. If you've installed a program, an app on your phone, you've used a wizard. You install it, you start it up, and it asks you for, maybe it asks you for your name or your email address. And you know how you go next, next, next. And then it gives you 40 pages of legalese that you don't read, but you agree to it right away. Right? That's a wizard. And then you say, done. And the program's installed. That's what this does. It's going to walk us through 5 steps. So I'm going to say create. Now, I haven't imported anything from any board, so I have to put some stuff in here. I'll just put it in. I'm just going to put a little bit there. All right? You'll fill out the information that you need to fill out on this. You're going to say next. You're going to put in your dates. What is the contract date? What is the expiry date? Like this, none of this should be a mystery to anybody. This is easy stuff. You're just putting in dates. And actually, when you click in these, you get a nice little calendar. You don't have to type it in. You just pick the date and plug it in. So we'll say contract date.
So this is like a listing?
Yeah. Now, remember, this is not going, like this will be used on your documents, but as we're setting it up now. What contacts do you want? Do you want to add any contacts to it? Put me in my office here already, which is fine. And now we get to our forms. What forms do we want to have as part of our transaction kit? You will notice here that in the new web forms, it's not called transaction kits anymore, it's just called transactions. Subtle difference there. We're going to click add to add our forms. You will notice all throughout Webforms 2019, if you ever want to add anything, that add button is in the top right-hand corner. It's super consistent. You never have to think about how do I add anything. So I'm going to click add. I'm going to get a box that pops up. And I'm going to use the search. Now you can scroll through here, like you can go right to your real forms, or you can go to your board forms. I'm going to do a search here. I'm going to type 100. So I'm going to add a form, real form 100. I'm not going to exit. I'm just going to do a different one. I'm doing admin. And then I'm going to do this. I will point this out. So I've typed MLS because I'm going to add the data sheet, the residential data sheet. Don't get freaked out when you see this. You're lucky because you're Barry, and so yours sorts right at the top. So I'm going to check Barry. If I was to scroll down here, look at this. Here's Brentford, you'll notice it's checked. Here's Cambridge, it's checked. Right? It's not going to add all of these forms. The reason they're all checked is we belong to a regional system. The form is exactly the same for all of us. Right? This isn't such a helpful thing for you because your board is at the top anyways. But for me, if I'm teaching my members in Oakville, we have to scroll way down to find Oakville, but you know what? It's the exact same form. Right? So we tell people, just use the Barry form. Right? It doesn't have Barry on it. It's just a residential or it's residential form. So don't get freaked out if you see all of those checked. It's not going to add them all. You can see up here, we've got 3 forms. I got my form 100, my 120, and then my data sheet that I'm going to add. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to click add. Here they are. If I wanted to remove one of these forms, we use this stoplight over here. See, we can preview the form, we can download it, delete it, edit it. Or send to third-party vendor is sending it to DocuSign or DocuSign. So this is another example of that little menu on the right-hand side. it shows different things depending on where you are in the system. Don't hesitate to just click on it and have a look and see what does it say in this area. All right, it's a process of discovery. Finally, we go next. Here's our documents. If we wanted to add a document, we were talking about this earlier, Jack, right? It's like, so you wanted to include something that you wanted to email. If you had added a document earlier in that document section, then you would click here to add, and then we could go to our documents, go through, find the document we want, and add it there. So that's what we're going to do. We can go over that at the end also. And we'll just say done. And now we have created our transaction. Here's our details, right? It's a sale, right? This is what it's called, Berry Morning. This is the address, and these are the forms that are in it. All right? Now, that is using the wizard. I encourage you to use the wizard the first few times you do it. All it does is just make sure that you hit all of the things you need to do. If you don't want to use the wizard, you can create a transaction, in which case you just give it a name, add some details, and then it's done. And then you got to go into the transaction and then add the forms separately, right? It just didn't walk you through that step. You can add them whatever order you want, right? You can add the contacts when you want. You can add your documents whenever you want. You just don't have to do it in the order that the wizard gives it to you. So once you get comfortable with the system, feel free to do that. I don't see any reason not to use the wizard. It's a good way to get going.
What's the difference between open and active when it's having stuff?
You know, there is actually no difference, right? Those statuses are just for you to sort of, however, like for people like to classify things different ways, right? Also, this is also a bit of a much larger system. So like transaction desk could be coupled with like an office component, for example, right? And so if you have that, if you have a workflow happening in the office, then you may want to do that. But there's nothing that changes in the system. You stop doing whatever it is. Like for example, pending or withdrawn. Like you just want to categorize it yourself so that you can filter your transactions by different statuses.
Another question.
Sure.
So for every new offer we do, we have to plug in the date of the listing and the expiry of that listing as well? Is that what I saw here?
Well, this wasn't an offer. This is me creating, like, I guess the stage I'm at here, because I'm going through to showing, it's like, okay, so
You're not doing an offer from beginning to end, right?
I'm not working through an offer, right? I'll try to show you how the system works.
Can we work through an offer?
Can we work through it? You would have to walk me through it because I'm not a realtor.
Okay.
If we got time, I'm happy to do that at the end. Yeah.
So I think I understand what
When
you're
you
saying.
get it and then send it.
Wendy?
What?
So you were asking, you know, if you have to fill in the expired deadline. I think it was saying that you can fill in as much or little as you want during that little portion. And then later on you go in and,
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you
Details.
from
On
like,
the
you're not stuck at that.
yeah, you don't have to put all that information in to start. You can do what you have, for example, you know, as we often do, right? You know, that's all.
I was just wondering if when you do an offer, if it's going to ask for that every time you do an offer, which is something new. And why would it ask for when the listing was expired?
You know, this is
It's
more
okay.
like for, this is when you're doing a listing, right? Not
Yeah.
any offer.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, thanks.
So now that we have all these, we have these three documents, let's have a look at editing of these documents. So I'm going to edit my form on that. Now, if you're following along here, what I want to be clear is what you see on your screen and what I see on my screen might be a little bit different. And this varies depending on the computer you're using. So watch up here at the top. You see how I've got all these icons up here? But I have no words. If I change the resolution here, watch if I shrink it down one more time, you can see now I've got actually names for these menus. And sometimes icons disappear depending. Like I've noticed in classes, this icon right here, this square with the pencil. If you're using an iPad Pro for some reason, it's not here. It's actually under this menu. It's moving things around to try and adjust for a web browser. I don't know why that is, but if you are using something and what you're seeing on the screen is different than mine, it's not broken. It's just adjusting for the resolution of your screen. My screen isn't particularly high resolution, and I'm showing everything really big so you can see it on the screen. All right. So across the top, let's look at these items across the top. This is our file menu here, right? So we can create a new document. We can open a particular form. Save as you're working along. Please, people, come in and make sure you save your work. I would do it after each page or so.
Where do you do that?
See, I know you can click this right here. This folder.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work through.
Oh, there's the save button.
Yeah. All right. We can erase information. This is new. Confidential. These are watermarks. So if you wanted to put, for example, a watermark on your document that says draft on the bottom, you can do that, and then you can remove it later when you're ready to make it production, so to speak. We can remove the document. You can print it. This allows you to send it to email. I will show you right here. If you want to send it to email or into any one of these, here's what email looks like when you email it. Were you getting there? Because I did this last week. Okay, we'll come back to that. And then this just exits out of this particular document.
From where is it sending?
It sends it from Webforms.
So I guess
You can email from Webforms now, right?
this
Right? So you can email from Webforms now. This is just the same thing. It's the same thing.
creating all that transaction.
All right. Here's where you can adjust the fonts on your form. As you can see, you have a whole slew of different fonts that you can pick from now. There was only 4 previous choices. If you find that you come in and you change the font on your form every single time, then I would go into your program settings earlier, under the form settings, and you can set your default font. Believe it or not, you can change the color of all your font. These are the colors you can choose from. I'm not sure I would recommend the fuchsia or yellow as a font color, although everybody I've talked to agrees that black should be the only one that you have.
Yeah.
It does change the font on everywhere. You can't just change one specific field, right? So it's all of it. Although everybody's taking bets on who the first person is going to choose fuchsia or green.
So I mean, so if you change the font, it's the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah.
Okay, so I would think that the executive in class could have it so that if you were making changes, you could make it into a font, but you can change everything.
Yeah, there's a couple other things you can do. I'm going to get there in a second to do that. You can change the font size, and this changes the size of the font all through your document. Right? So you can't just change one field. It's everything. And then finally, this text functions. If you want to convert all of your text to uppercase or lowercase, and then of course title cases, first letter, that's capital, that's where you can do that. Clauses, this is when you would click on to insert your clauses. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. This takes us to our transaction forms. This icon here allows you to jump to a specific page within the form you're looking at. Most people do, have heard, and we agree, it would be nice to have those thumbnails down on the left-hand side that we had before.
You can scroll down.
You can scroll down to the page for sure. Yeah, you can scroll all the way through. That just allows you to jump to a particular page. This is for help, a little ambulance. If anybody has ever seen a World Star Hip Hop video, it's also known as an ambulance. This allows you to zoom in or out. Now, this allows you to do some markup stuff, so this might be something that you were talking about, like you want to change something, so let's just say I put in here, I put that in, but maybe what I want to do is highlight it. I can use the highlighter tool, go like this.
Grant, I think something very useful is to show us the scroll down to the price, and then use the markup tool
Like here.
So can I ask a question? If we go onto our main page, member dashboard page, and then on the left are all these icon thingies, and that form that you're on now, if we click on there, is the agreement of purchase going to come up like this?
No, this over here on the left-hand side gives you a list of all of the forms available to you in the system. You would want to go to this transactions. And
So we
get
have to create the
forms for this transaction.
So we have to do that transaction thing first, create
Yes.
the transaction first,
Yes.
and then we can go back and click on this form thingy,
Yeah.
and then agreement of purchase and sale will be in there. Or that's because we put it in there.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
So if you wanted to strike this out,
Thank you.
this is what you're talking about. That? Yeah.
That's what I needed to know. Create the transaction first, the person's same thing, but it's different look. Just gotta get used to the look. Somebody's having it, rooms are right there. See, this isn't just gonna hit.
I'll probably that. The only thing is, it doesn't reflect it here.
Right.
So that's what I would do.
That's very useful.
All right. If you wanted to send this this document for signing the application, you'll have this pen here. This pen will only appear if you have linked to one of the third-party vendors. Right. So if you have not gone in down in this little shopping cart on the left-hand side and made that link, you're not going to see that. And now these two icons up here with the plus and the minus looks like a page. This is for adding and removing pages. These will appear sometimes and not others. And the reason they appear sometimes and not others is that this particular document, for example, you can have multiple Schedule 8 pages, right? Like up to 6. So you may add, here's one thing, and I know I'm going to hear groans on this. I know the old Webforms, you just keep typing and it just keeps adding pages, right? This one doesn't do that. You get to the end of the page, you have to add a page. That's why when you add your document, you can pick between one, like a Form 100 with 1 through 6 Schedule 8 pages. If you choose, if you don't know, so you add 4, you choose the one with 4 and you use 2 of them, you simply click this where it says remove page, and it starts taking pages off the bottom. So that's how that works. All right. So I'm going to scroll down because this is generally where people want to see stuff. You'll notice a big change here when we come down to our schedule. First and foremost, there's no button to insert a clause. It seems like somebody has to tell you how this works through its simplicity, and that is you simply click in this space and you can see this green box appears, and then you start typing your clauses or you insert your clause. So to insert a clause, I've clicked in this area. I'm going to go to our clauses icon here at the top, so it's the square with a pencil. I can choose from the clauses that I have in the system, either my personal clauses, the office clauses, or the system clauses. And these are all broken down by different areas, right? So I'm just going to render it just to get text in there. Search. All right, so then our clauses go in. And you can edit them however you want. You can actually you can drag these, you can drag them, move them around. If you want to change the order of them, it's just highlighted and drag it. There's something fairly important I want to point out about this page. So I've explained before that you can't just go to the end and it adds a new page. You have to have them, you have to go to the next page. We've discovered this. People have commented that they've changed the font in the document to say, let's make it 12. So the font's bigger everywhere. However, when they get to their clauses, even though it looks quite large here, when they print it, it's really small. Here's what happens. I'm gonna go, I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it. So when you get to the bottom, you'll notice you can actually enter text past the bottom of this box. Right? So it does scroll in that box. What happens is this. If you go past where the box generally is, when you start entering below, it starts to shrink the text to fit it in. This is what's happening. I personally feel that they should just cut it off where the box ends. And I've made that suggestion to them. So if you do that, you like remove a couple of these, and you just go to the next schedule, put them in here, you will find the font will all be the same. You can actually print it like to a PDF or whatever, and you can see if you've kind of gone by that mark. So I would just be mindful. I feel bad, I'm going to be honest, trying to give these workarounds for it. I'm hoping this is something that they're going to address. Because it will only go so far and it'll just stop letting you enter stuff. It doesn't add a new page. So I would just say, you know what? I can see on the screen, this is the size of the box. When I get to the bottom of that box, I'm just going to, my next class, I'm just going to go to the next page.
How did you go to that next page again?
Pardon me?
Sorry, how did you do that?
Well, when I picked this particular form, the Form 100, I picked one that had 2 Schedule 8 pages. So I just scroll to the next one.
If it's not there, how do I quickly get another?
Sure. If it's not there and you're like, oh, I need more, this icon here at the top, this here, add page,
Okay, thank you.
right? So I click that, it says, do you want to add a new page to the form? I say yes.
Yeah, perfect.
And now way at the bottom, there'll be 3 scheduling pages that I can add. And then taking them off the same thing, you click the one with the buttons.
Will it automatically move all that other stuff down to the next page?
No, you have to do it. That's why I just say, you know, when you're entering and you're pasting in your clauses and you're picking your clauses and putting them in, like just have a look and say, how much room do I have left, right? Is it a big clause? Like if you enter it in and then you realize that it's larger, right? It gives you a little bit of wiggle room. I would just cut that last clause. I would just, you know, Control C, go to the next page, paste it in, and then you're good. Yes,
And who has this schedule?
sorry, where am I?
Just go down to the schedule. I found the older version. If you were to remove a portion of one of those lines, so like if you take a look at the bars on the right, blah blah blah, to assign the within the offer to any person. If you were to take out everything from say after the comma after person, you remove persons or corporation, either existing or to be. Let's say we're going to remove all that section. In the old version, the text would flow back up.
Oh,
Like it wouldn't word wrap.
okay.
Like MS Word does.
Yeah.
So I don't know in this version how they fix that, or will it flow, or do you have to start backspacing and deleting?
Well, so I've highlighted this.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to delete it.
Oh, great. It was such a pain in the butt.
Was it?
Constantly backspacing and taking care of spaces.
You didn't start fooling around with clauses once you got them in there, because then you didn't know what you were gonna get when you printed it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you had to like mess with it outside and then put it in? Well, and it's funny, because when I was being shown how to use software, that was one of the comments that was made to me, is that this is more word processor-like, right? So you don't have this down. That's good to know. I'll make sure I mention it next time. All right. So we've made changes. We've done a couple edits. We've used some little markup here. I'm going to make sure I save this. Perfect. And I'm just going to go back to my transaction. So now in this transaction, the documents that we have here, my Form 100, it has been edited, right? So that's my updated form here, with all the clauses that I just stuck in it. Now, if I want to send this somewhere, what I can do is I click on, go to Forms, and then I check them. Let's say I want to print these or send them to my client. It's a little hidden. You check the ones that you want to deal with, and you see your basket has 3. You click here, now you have your choices, right? You can send it to Benesign or DocuSign, right? You can make a copy of it, you can download them as a zip file, you can print them, download them as a PDF, or let's say email version. Here we go. So you get the name, email, message. Now you have a couple choices here. You can send this should be familiar. You can send, when you email it, it will send a link that your clients can go in and have a look at. Previously, there was a kind of a cap on how long they had to see that before the link expired. Here, you can decide when the expiration date is. So you can put in a date that the link is active for. It could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks. So you have a little bit more control over that. You can send it as an attachment, in which case it sends the documents to your clients as PDFs, and it'll send each document as a separate PDF. That's how it goes there. And then if you're sending it as a link, you can decide whether you want to allow the editing of the forms or not. Now that's up to you. I think most people are like, no, I would never allow that. Although I did have one person say to me that they will send their rental agreement to them as an editable and let them fill it out. I thought it was an interesting case. There is a distinct advantage to sending it as a link, and that is, have you ever sent a document to somebody as an attachment and then you realize seconds after you click send that there's a typo in it or something? And it's like, well, now they've already got it. And so you have to send it again and say, well, here's an updated one, right? Because there was a mistake in the previous one. If you send it as a link, they're just going to the system. So if you do encounter that when you send it and you're like, oh my goodness, something's wrong, you can go in, you can edit the form. If you can get there before they get there, then they'll never know that there was maybe an amendment. But I'm not saying you should bother it, right? But that's as easy as it is for sending that. Right? And if you don't want to send all 3 of these, you can click on the little minus sign to remove one of the items before you send it. So again, for emailing and printing, I'm going to go back to my transactions. You open your transaction, you go to the forms, you select them, and you go to the basket, and that's where you have your actions here. You send it to a Benesign, print it, download it, fax it if you want, or you can do it. Email. If you email it, option is as if they get a link that takes them to
But
transaction.
not electronic sign.
No, for there, you would use the pen if you click here, and then you would pen.
So when you're saying add the form, just go here, add the form, go here, add the form. Those forms are only there because we put them in. So we have to still put them in first. They're not somewhere we can pull from.
Right, you've created your transaction
So the
kit.
first thing, we create a transaction kit with all the forms we put in it,
Yes, you add the forms.
Can we do that?
step by step.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what we do over here.
All right.
Sorry, just a little panic over here.
No, it's okay. This is why I'm here. Like, I'm not an interruption, so no problem.
Thank you.
So we're going to create the transaction. You guys are going to drive.
Okay, so create transaction.
Okay, did you see where I got there?
No.
Okay, I use this right here, create transaction.
And that's on the very first page?
It's
where
on
that-
my first page.
Where that little round symbol is, okay.
Assume it's not, go down to the hamburger.
If it's not there, you can come down here
That's
and
all.
click on the little house.
That's all.
Okay,
Yeah.
so create
And
transaction.
You're right, it's always there. You're paying attention.
I
Now I'm getting hungry talking about hamburgers.
Those blue ones he put on there, they may not be on everybody's screen, but down in the hamburger it is, it's always there.
Okay, but the widget in the very far left there where it's
Yeah.
highlighted blue is there.
I think it's there by default on it.
Yeah, so we have to be in there first, okay,
Okay, so I'm going to create a transaction.
okay.
I'm going to give it a name, you know.
Hello.
All right, this is for John Wick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you going to use a template? I haven't covered creating a template yet, but you could solve all kinds of time by having a template with all the forms that you want in it already, right? But let's say we're not using a template. The type, this is just for your own, how you classify stuff in the system. And for filtering, I'm going to say it's a residential listing design. And I'm the listing salesperson. I'm going to use the wizard. Okay.
So, hold on, residential listing.
We good?
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
So I've filled out this first box. I'm going to say create.
I don't have a template on mine. Like it doesn't show me all the options that you just showed us here. I have a Mac. Does that
No.
have anything to do with that?
Oh, because you have not created one. Right? As soon as you create a template, it'll be in your document. Okay, how are we doing? We good?
Step by step.
Next step?
Step by step.
So we're going to fill out some information here. If anybody hasn't figured this out, or set by Rob. If you want to come down to your line, have a barbecue, please swing by. All right, property type, residential. I'm not sure how much you need to fill out on this page. You want me to fill out anything else?
No.
No, we're good, okay. I'm gonna go next. Note here, for details, it tells me I'm on step 1 of 5. So I know where I'm at in my process for creating a transaction. I'm gonna say next. And then I'm gonna put in my dates. I'm gonna say, let's say the contract date is tomorrow. Expiry date. Let's say November. We don't have any of this other stuff. Yes?
You're doing a listing, but you're doing an offer. Contract date would be just a listing, you can have an offer.
Okay, so we're doing offers.
If you're doing an offer,
Okay.
I'm doing offers.
No, I want to do what makes sense to these people over here.
He's doing an offer right now.
Okay, I'm doing an offer.
No, he's doing an offer. He's creating the transaction kit first, which you have to do first.
See, it's showing here that I'm not a realtor. I do my best, I honestly do. Okay, so the offer date, so we're gonna put in today. Is this normally how it happens? Like, oh my goodness, we gotta put in an offer right now? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm putting it today.
That's why we do the roots.
Fair enough. Anything else I'm gonna be filling out on this page?
Irrevocable, whatever.
Irrevocable date?
August 23rd, sure.
Get that, you put that in.
Associated, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, it's okay.
It's just a root.
And this
Offering,
is
closing
from that.
date,
This is from that.
What's that?
Computer
Closing
thing
date.
outside. This is it,
Title
step by
search
step.
date.
Oh.
Step 2,
But again, you can put in as much
step
as you
4,
want
here
here.
is everything.
Oh,
You're putting this in to save editing the document, correct? They're gonna pull these, add these dates, put them on the,
These things can be used by the system. I don't think this actually will pull into the documents.
and that's where I think everybody's confused. They're thinking this is the information.
This is the document.
Going to the document. This is
Yeah.
just the transaction that you created, sticking some dates in. It really can be blank with a name on it.
This is correct.
Then you pull the offer paperwork out and plug in the dates.
Yeah, but you have to do this first.
You don't, you can just stick a name on it. You don't have to fill any of this out.
But see, there are things that you could do by putting in some of these dates, for example. Like, I appreciate having an offer date and your mobile date. But if you had a closing date in here, for example, then you could tie that to the tasks
But that's not gonna put it on the actual
Right.
offer, agreement, purchase, and sale.
Right.
I think that's what everybody's thinking it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't, not in this portion.
So what's the purpose of creating the transaction? Is simply just to get the forms in there for your offer?
Correct.
Okay.
And so you bundle all the stuff together under one thing. It's not any different than what you do right now.
So if you put in all this
It looks
information,
different.
it's not adding it to your offer.
No.
So then why does this come up?
So that you could, it's information for you, so that if you just pull up a transaction without having to pull up the offer, you can look at it.
Oh,
Right? Like you
okay.
could look at the information quicker than having to wait and open up, because sometimes, it's like when you open up a document, you gotta wait a couple seconds.
I'll bring it old school. This is the front of a folder.
It's the
When you meeting
folder.
started, you have a folder. You wrote
Yeah,
all your
it's your
stuff on the
summary.
folder. All your stuff is inside, which we
Okay.
haven't created yet.
But you have to put it inside. Okay.
Correct.
The
Okay,
document, you
step by
put it
step.
inside. This is just your folder that you carry around.
Thank
So
you.
quick glance, you say, oh, it closes
I
here.
like
Yes,
paper.
thanks for saying that. I would have thought I had to do this every time.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing is here, if you look at, there's nowhere in the wizard that says whether it's a listing or an offer.
Right.
Have you noticed this? Right? It's the same regardless of what it is you're doing.
Right.
So you may use some of these in some cases and not in others. You said some of this stuff can change, right?
But
We
you
would
did,
have to go back and change that as the dates change.
Oh, yeah, you can come
It
back.
won't automatically pull it.
No, it doesn't go back.
Like your dashboard,
Oh,
like
it's easy.
your deals are.
Well, if you're using a wizard, it would be before, because it's walking you through this process. All right. I guess there's a lot of interactive most of this.
the only question I have
Yeah.
is, when you created this transaction, if you go back one page, you did call it a listing, or in the pull down somewhere we had.
Residential listing right there.
Right there, yeah, so this, that you're just labeling the folder.
But just labeling it,
Yeah, so this.
because you can sort, like you can filter on, show me transactions of a certain kind or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can edit, like you can add to this list, right? So if you wanted to add something called offer, you could do that, it's in that setup, the program setup.
Can we control and select residential sale and have two come up? Like, can you, or is it only one label?
You can only pick one.
One, okay.
Yeah.
So we can't change that to say residential sale, farm, residential sale, condo. So we know that's our transaction kit.
You can add to those, like from this list here, you can add to them, but if you add them elsewhere, and then they'll be in this list.
Okay.
It's one of the settings. Remember running through the settings and you did,
Oh, perfect. Okay.
right? So you can add to them there, and I'll show you how to do that. All right.
Christine, the settings on the left side is three lines.
The gears.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to look at contacts here? Have we worked at this? Or you're just good with it?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Makes sense now.
This seems to be the key point here.
Yeah.
The forms.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So now we're going to add the forms to this kit. So I'm going to click add.
Right there, yeah.
What forms do you want me to add here?
Agreement of purchase and sale.
All right, so when I'm gonna add this form, and I'll just to go over this, you can see, I can pick how many schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 Schedule A pages.
If you know the number.
You can guess.
Oh.
I would add more. It really doesn't matter, or you can take pages off. I'm gonna add 2, right? 2 is the schedule. Yeah. Anything else? What am I adding?
Okay.
Just this one?
We were just thinking we had to actually go into Barry first and then choose the forms, but it's just all, okay.
Yeah, because Form 100 it's an area form, it's not a Barry form.
Okay.
The only thing under Barry that you're going to see is your data sheet.
Okay.
That's the only thing you're going to
I
see.
have a form. I have forms. I'm good.
I'm happy to see that. Because I didn't feel like I was doing an absolute all. All right. So we've added one form. Are we good here?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we adding any other forms? No?
No, I don't know.
All right, I'm going to go next. Now, documents, this is just if it's a document that is not part of the forms
Like a survey or
available
something.
in the system.
Okay, any additional stuff you want to add,
I
right?
think we need from our schedule C or from our.
Like
From
what do you
the
say?
office, yes.
Can we put in form, like, we have a PDF on our system somewhere? Can we
Yeah.
pull that and upload it?
So, I'll show you this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not gonna add any documents, and we're gonna say done. I will cover that, because I have to go into that area to show other stuff. I'm gonna say, are we good to say done? Okay. So now we're done. It takes us to that transaction.
It sounds so easy. Wish I had your brain.
We have our details here on the left-hand side. It shows us our documents. And then the forms that we have added to the kit. Now, if I want to fill out this form now, I've added the form. Now I want to fill it out. I click on it. And now I'm going to fill out the information. Now, if we had picked in the wizard, if you're going to make an offer, you could have at the beginning for example, I'll do this really quick. I'm not using this one, I'm going to put in an MLS number. I'm going to pull it from the system.
Now, full names and that.
That's right.
Deals.
Oh, yeah. I just put everything in. Then,
All right, so I pulled it from the listing. Like I entered a listing because we're going to do an offer. So now, because I put in the MLS number, it's populated all this information for me. All right? So I'm going to skip through here. Just a few. I'm going to go right to the forms. I'm going to have form 100. So now when I bring up my form 100, it's got all this information already populated in. Okay.
You were saying the dates that we put in on the transaction on that folder front, it won't pull those dates in. We have to put those dates.
Right.
So the left-hand side, not the right-hand side.
Think so? Well, I'm going through a lot of screens here really quick. Are we good at actually creating a kit now and adding the forms to it and getting to it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave this, and there's a couple of things that I want to show you here on the left-hand side. I'm going to go to our program setup. So we've seen this before. This is where I encourage you to kind of go through these things yourself. This type management section, well, let's start here, clauses. This is where you add your clauses. You go into your personal clauses. You can create a folder up here in the top. Remember I said always in the top right-hand corner you're going to find the add button. When you click add, you can add a new clause or a new folder. So if you're creating your custom clause and you like to organize stuff, then you can create folders and then put clauses like you could have condominium, you know, waterfront, whatever, and then put the clauses in there, just help you organize. Right? But creating new clauses it doesn't get any easier than this. You say add new clause, you give it a name. Parliamentarian, and you type in some stuff. You say okay, and that's it. So you've created a custom clause, it's right there, right? The office clauses will be in here, and then all of the system clauses are in here. You can't edit them, they're all in there though for you to review. See what you need. Type management. This sounds a little odd, but when you look in these things, it'll make sense. So for example, transaction. So if I go into transaction, you see here, commercial lease, commercial listing, commercial sale. You remember you were asked, can we do commercial sale / farm, right? When I'm in here, look at this little plus. I can create a new one, and it adds it to this list. So then when you are going through your wizard and you're assigning these things, that new one would be there for you to pick.
Gotcha.
All right? Interestingly, you can't take them out.
It's just gonna have to be that.
So be mindful of your typing when you put these in.
Oh,
You can't correct it,
You can't
You
edit.
can't correct it,
Oh
no.
my.
but you can delete it and re-put it in. Nope?
Yeah, once you put it in, it's there. I have not seen a way to take it out.
Oh,
And you can't edit it at all?
What sounds like?
or delete it and do it again.
Try it again.
So under type management transaction.
Probably the default, you just can't take it.
Oh, I was lying to you. Right here, you
You
can.
can't put it in.
Sorry.
That's one of yours.
All right.
But the stock ones you can't adjust.
Yeah, and you know what? It just occurs to me, and I think that's different here. It's got this little globe and we cover it says system. That's new from last time I talked. All right. Now here, this is the important stuff. Your template, transaction templates. This is where you're going to save all your time. Right? I've got a number of templates created here. Your templates will have already been transferred for you. What is not in them is the clauses that were in them previously. So you're going to want to edit your transaction template, add your clauses back in. If you have never created a template, then this is what it looks like in the new Webforms. Top right hand corner, as I said before, we've got the add. So I'm going to click add, I'm going to give it a name. What type is it? Here's my new one, residential sale farm. And I'm going to give it, I don't need a description. I'm going to say save. And now, this in essence is like doing the wizard. It's just all on one page. Do I want to add a checklist to it? Right? I could add a checklist that I already have created. Okay. If you don't typically use the checklist feature, don't worry about it. Contacts, I can add more contacts to it. Documents and folders. Do I want to add a document from my documents? Here, I'll add this lesson plan. So now it's part of my transaction template. Whenever I create a new transaction using this template, that document will be part of it. Forms. This is the biggie. We're going to add the forms, right? Is this transaction, are you going to have a transaction template for doing offers? In which case you're going to add your Form 100 and everything else that's going to go with it. Is it a listing? In which case you would have the documents that you want in there and your, like for example, your data sheet. You would have that in there. Be generous. Add any document to your template that you think you might need. Because you can always take them out. You don't have to use them because you're there. Okay.
Well, I was being generous, and I put my amendment to agreement of purchase and sale in on Ontario 120, and it says, there's a little warning underneath, it says this form has been disabled.
Oh,
And you're right.
you did that in your templates?
Yeah.
So, I guess,
It came, I had it in my old kit.
Oh, you okay.
And when it was brought over, I guess, it didn't say it.
oh, so what?
You know what, there may have been changes to the form.
Right, so in the old Webforms, if you brought up a transaction in the kit that had no forms, it would tell you these have been upgraded. Have you tried that yet, Jack? and do you want to replace it?
Basically,
You know, they do
it's
that
not,
here.
it's not giving you that time.
They will update the form, but they won't, and any clauses and stuff that is in it, they won't reinsert your clauses.
No.
And the reason for that is because they don't know how dramatic the form change is going to be, right? Or any values that you have in your template.
Right.
All right, so this is where you add all your forms. And then finally, sharing. There is a feature in the system, which I'll show you right at the end, where you can actually set up a sharing group. So let's say you work on a team, and you create a transaction kit, and you want other members on your team to be able to edit that transaction. So you can create the team, and you can specify whether people can just view it, they can edit it, and full control means they can even delete the kit, right? And so I'll show you that in a second. So you can add a group, a security group, a sharing group to your transaction template. So anytime you create a transaction kit from that template, those individuals will have access to your transaction. You don't have to go sharing around, right? Which is actually super handy. All right? I'll show you what that looks like. You're sharing this section here. So if I wanted to create a new sharing group, it'll show you everybody that's in your office. And then you pick and choose who you want to share this with. So I'm going to share this with Patty. She gets full privileges. And Brian gets right privileges. And I say, okay. They'll get notification that they have been added to a sharing group when you share a transaction like that. And interestingly, when they log in to Webforms, in the list of transactions that they have, so they may have their own transactions, if they have access to a transaction kit that has been shared with them, you'll see a little link. So it'll suddenly appear in your transactions with a little link to show that somebody has shared with you. If they only have read-only, it'll have the little link and then it has like this eyeball beside it, which means they can view it all.
As a creator, would you get notification that somebody's been coming around it? Like, you notice that somebody's been in there?
No, that's a good question. I don't know that answer, but I'll find out. You can leave me your business cards. As soon as I find out, I'll.
And what about office staff? Is there any access to them, or does anyone have to share them?
Office,
They're not.
office staff, no, wouldn't be in here because they don't have Webforms accounts, right?
Right, but very often our office staff choose the office for us.
Yes, so they'll go into Matrix and they'll go into like Realtor Link, Agent Realtor Link, and then go in as you, right? But they wouldn't show up in this list because they just don't ever have access to Webforms by themselves, right? If they've been added, for example, as a team member, right, using Teams, they can do that. They can do the working hours. I don't know if you guys use that. At all in Matrix? No. If you're interested in that, you should let me know. It's a really powerful feature. A couple of other little things here. How many people enter your home listings into Matrix? Okay. Everybody else does the front desk staff do it?
Oh, I have to manage.
So you fill out the residential input sheet in Matrix, or in Webforms, print it, get your client to
Sign
install
it,
it. In the next month or so, there's a new feature coming to Webforms 2019. If this doesn't convince you to start using it, I don't know what I can do. You're going to complete your residential data sheet, or your commercial data sheet, in Webforms. You get your clients to initial. In Webforms, there will be a button, and when you click the button, it will send all of your data to Matrix, and it will be there as an incoming listing for you to finish. You can go in, you can add your photos, add your open houses.
When's that coming?
It's gonna be a month.
That's cool.
That's nice.
Yes.
That's the best awesome news we've heard.
I had to do something here at the end, right? No, that, we're really excited about that. And I think even for an office, if you think about your admin
They're
staff,
filling the forms out anyway.
right? Who do
Exactly.
this, how much, this is all this duplicate entry
That's great.
is going to be
Yeah,
eliminated.
exactly.
Now, you do have the option, and you always have had the option in Matrix, where you could go in, you could skip the whole Webforms data sheet business, enter your listing in input, and then there's a form that you can print, and it's member folder signature. And so you can print that and give it to your clients and then sign it. The boards are happy with that, that's why it's there. It just depends on whether your office likes that or not. But this ADT, if you ever see here referred to as ADT, the automated data transfer, that, when it's communicated, that's what that is. There'll be a button in Webform that will send that data to Matrix, where it'll assign an MLS number to it. And then when you go into Matrix and you go into input, you'll see it there as an incoming.
And try.
So a lot of our members are dual members, they're
Yeah.
either members of TREP or Barry or both.
That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not Trap. We don't have any control over Trap systems. So that's, but I think it's a bit of a link for us.
I have a question. I'm on a apprentice sign, but when I forget where it is now, but where it shows you a link, it
Yep.
doesn't have a link button. How do I get my apprentice sign? What's on it?
If you, so if you have it, it's a little shopping cart.
Right. Mine
It's
says learn more.
Learn more. So if you click on learn more, it'll take you to a fairly rudimentary page. And you can sign up for a free trial, or you can sign up for a event.
I already have it though.
You already have it. You pay for it yourself.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. You're gonna give me your business card anyways, and then I'll find out for you. All right, are there any other questions? There's a lot there, and we kind of wandered a little bit, I think. How many people are more likely to use it now than you were yesterday? I would try it. Remember, like honestly, what you should do is when you are not under pressure, that's when you go in and you tinker with this, right? Do a couple, be comfortable with it. Like I said, the process is you start a transaction, you add forms to it, you edit the forms, and then you either print them or you send them for electronic